Hi, on your Saturday morning, I'm weather analyst Andrew Fleck, just here for a weather outlook for analysiswx.com. And today's points of what we're going to be talking about will be the lake effect snows that are finally going to be dwindling down. Some areas had about 3 feet of snow, which is absolutely incredible. Those lake effect machines are just totally impressive, in my opinion. The cold weekend that is still in store for us. A few chillier days a few days ago, but we're still looking at a pretty chilly weekend to start yet. And once again, that Sunday's wintry onset, where some wintry precip may make its way into the Appalachians, Mid-Atlantic, and Northeastern states, which we'll talk most about. So currently looking out here, you don't really see much. Maybe some last-minute lake effect snows coming off the lakes here. Other areas along the lakes here, very quiet, which is very sudden and very much better to be seeing due to how much snow you guys have been seeing in the past 2 days. So that's got to be an extremely major relief for you guys. And then mostly what we're going to talk about here is the temperatures. And a few days ago, we actually had zero temps around some areas up around the upper Midwest, Wisconsin, upper Michigan. We had some 0 degree highs, some negative digits during the afternoons. It was really cold up there, and this is just the first shot. You're going to have another shot up here, and this is the next cold air pocket that's going to just slowly dive across the upper Midwest, across the Great Lakes, and then surely by next week into the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast once again, and that'll probably hit the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast by your Tuesday and Wednesday. But we saw that first shot come through, and this one is really the miserable shot, and that's going to start to really pound areas with more of a consistent hit, especially as far south as the Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, and Northeast. So, getting on to knowing that the lake effect snows have dwindled and how cold it has been, let's get into the storm that's going to be affecting the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast coming up into the next day or so. And what you're going to have here is a bunch of very heavy rain across the south and southeastern states. And what this is going to do is move to your northeast, okay? And up here you have high pressure. And this is going to continue to move northeast. It's going to start to grasp into some cold air left over, and some areas are going to be seeing some changes across some areas as this precip continues to move to the northeast. So some areas could start to see some snow, some wintry mix, but as we get into the daytime, afternoon, early evening, that's when most precipitation, mainly in the Mid-Atlantic, the valleys, the lower elevations, are going to change to just rain. But on the onset, there's going to be wintry precip, and again, on that system that the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast had about 3 days ago, where they had snow actually hang in into the region a little longer than what was supposed to, and instead of seeing a half an inch or an inch of snow, some areas picked up 2 to 4 inches of snow. So it's one of those events where you got to look at the temps today, you got to look at the temps tomorrow, and you got to see where you're fit to be looking at the radar and saying, well, it's 20 up here. There's some heavy precip moving into the area. How is that going to be rain to start? You got to put all that into the equation and see if you're really game for some wintry precip on the onset. I think most areas are, but again, I think the rain is going to be the dominant feature during this event. So going more into the model aspect, what we first have here is high pressure. We have two high pressures, one up here, and we have another one off the coast here. This one's the real strong one. And this is the one on Sunday that's going to start moving out, and you're going to have a low pressure here, as I'm going to show you in the next frame, that's going to start to form, and that's what you have here around South Carolina, and that's going to continue to slowly ramp up. And what's going to happen is you do have a high pressure up here. The problem is, though, that the high pressure is actually pulling up this warmer air into the states. But that high pressure, before the low gets north enough, is going to be, let's just sort of say, be really fluctuating and really pumping cold air into the Mid-Atlantic regions, the Appalachian Mountains, the Northeast, and before that low pressure gets up here, it'll be pretty cold, and that's why we think that there could be some wintry precip on the onset. But as the low pressure gets closer, some of that warm air, that eastern warm air, could get pumped up into those regions, and that's where the temps are not going to rise, but we do think that the levels might be warming, and that's how you might get that mix to rain change. Elsewhere, then what happens is that system moves out, And by Tuesday and Wednesday, the front I was talking to you about with the temperatures is coming through here, and what you're then going to get is a possible storm on the east side of that. We'll have to talk more about that as we get a little bit later into the weekend, maybe tomorrow or Monday, once we get away from this first storm that's going to be affecting the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. But I will say, it doesn't seem like many areas have been making out too great. Some areas have done fine, but some areas have not done too great along the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast for snows with these early storms we've had. So maybe in the next little bit we might start to see some clippers starting to come down, maybe in the next week or so, and maybe that'll start to give some areas snow. So if the southern branch stream of storms isn't working, maybe the northern stream with some clippers might start to work. So either way, the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic, you have so many ways to get snow. You have the northern branch, you have the southern branch, so many ways you can get these storms. And maybe by next week we start seeing what the northern branch can produce. But right now, the southern branch seems to be producing what it is doing, and it seems to be a little too warm right now. Not as much as most events being rain, but as much as the levels have been warming up too much during the events. It hasn't been an all cold, frozen precip event for most areas over most events. So maybe as the northern jet starts to fluctuate down more into the region, maybe that's when you can start to get some frozen precip all and through the event. So I'm going to leave you guys with that on this storm on Sunday, Monday. Like I said, it's going to come up. It's going to be frozen precip. The big question is, what are the temps going to be for today's highs, tonight's lows? Are they going to be cold enough to maybe keep some of that precip frozen for a little longer time period? We'll see, but all I do know is as the day goes on, it's going to warm up, so it's not going to be an excessively major event. And last but not least, we're going to look at the precip here. Here's the storms that comes in early Sunday. As you can see, there's going to be a few spots of mix and snow, and that's going to occur ahead of this rain, so expect that. But again, I don't think it's going to be a major deal. So that's about a wrap for this afternoon's update and outlook. For more information, go into the Analysis WX homepage, and there is a few boxes that animate as you see the water vapor imagery, the satellite imagery. I think in one of the boxes there's a model called the 12Z WRF. That gives you a good simulated imagery of what's going to happen for your area about 48 hours out from the event, so that might give you an idea of what I've been talking about. So that's about a wrap for the afternoon outlook. I'm AnalysisWX.com, and have a safe and nice weekend.